if you're elected, what are your top 3 priorities to accomplish as a legislator?
So I've talked to people about fiscal responsibility, and I definitely want to rein in some of the city's power on their ability to tax. They've excessively taxed the city of Boise for, I mean, probably 10, 15 years. That's one of the reasons why Mayor Beater, was beaten as an incumbent, which is really hard to do. And so I want people to know that, the property taxes aren't going to go up every year, and because there's a lot of fixed income residents that are having to pay that 3% on sometimes $300,000 homes because of the spike in pricing on the homes. So homes that should only be worth about $150,000, $200,000 are now worth $300,000. And in the north end in downtown, I mean, there's houses that are $500,000 plus that are really small. So that's a way for people to basically get instant tax relief is capping property taxes, and it actually doesn't affect the cities that much because even 1% on a $300,000 house will be a lot. Even 1% on $150,000 with a homeowner's exemption would be quite a bit. Plus, however many people live in the area, which is a lot, so that's a lot of tax money. And part of that is my homeowner's exemption. I want to increase it to $150,000 because the price of houses is only going to go up. It's not even with a recession. The housing prices here are not going to really go down that much because there's so many of them, and people aren't going to mass exodus Idaho like they have from California during their last recession. So that's my main priority. My second priority is to either legalize full recreational marijuana, medical, or at the very minimum decriminalize marijuana. It's an issue that in the future, federal prohibition will eventually end, especially if a Democrat is elected. Marijuana is not that bad of a drug. We all know that. Alcohol is probably the worst drug in the world. It kills more people than any other drug, and it's readily available, and the state actually runs it. So, our prisons are full of nonviolent offenders who might get arrested for having a joint or two. So we're wasting taxpayer dollars, and part of that is prison and criminal justice reform. So, and then my third main issue is going to be renters. Protecting renters from those property management companies that basically are price gouging them, increasing rent sometimes every 6 months when it's not necessary because property taxes only come out once a year. So why would they have to increase, at that level? Sometimes even more. Sometimes right after somebody gets evicted or leaves, they'll increase the prices. And the cost of living here has gone up. It's skyrocketed, but the wages are stagnant. So I want to be able to protect renters, and also that ties into affordable housing, which is non-existent in Boise, in my opinion, and especially on District 17, the bench, where we've been hit the hardest, especially with the downtown city's ability to collect taxes. It's really hit us hard because the bench is not, we don't have a lot of money compared to other districts in Boise. So those are my top 3 priorities.
Well, thanks, AJ. It sounds like we have some similar values. I definitely want to work on housing first and foremost. That's what I've worked on for my entire career. Those of you that know me, but I direct Jesse Tree, a nonprofit that prevents eviction and homelessness. So definitely see firsthand every day, the reality that a lot of people can't afford their housing. And that's not only because we have such a dearth of affordable housing, but it's also because of the property tax issue that Adriel mentioned. But we have a housing trust fund at the state level that I think has been unfunded since the 90s, and I would really like to push getting that funded, especially with the influx of federal funding that's coming into the state. In addition, there is a ton of room to improve on landlord-tenant law here in the state of Idaho. I've licensed in a few other states as an attorney, and there are a lot of issues with landlord-tenant law here in the state. So I worked a little bit on that in the last legislative session with a couple representatives and want to continue to work on that. And there's just a lot around housing, getting the Housing Trust Fund funded, working on landlord-tenant law, but I think also just, addressing kind of what Adriel was talking about with the property tax issue, homeowners exemption. but I could go on. But in general, we need to incentivize building more housing, especially affordable and lower income housing, and leveraging the federal funding that's coming to the state to do that right now. Second, education. My mom's a public school teacher, so really care about teachers and just getting them adequate pay and resources into the school districts. The state just this year passed some good laws along those lines. I'd like to continue to work with the IEA to get them more resources that they need, and also giving them more power and control over their students' needs and how they allocate resources at the local level. And then finally, criminal justice reform is really important to me. I went to law school in the first place to become a public defender, and ended up not doing that because I felt like a cog in a very exploitative machine. And I think this state obviously has a ton of room for improvement. I've been following the ACLU's blueprint on that for criminal justice reform. I worked with Cherie Buckner-Webb on her Fair Chance Employment bill last session, and definitely want to bring that back up to make it easier for people to re-enter. We also have some of the highest recidivism rates in the United States for folks, particularly folks out on parole or probation. So addressing some of those issues, and then also, instead of just continuing to put a Band-Aid on the situation and dumping more money into the system, addressing issues, the policies that need to be addressed to limit the amount of people in prison and prevent recidivism.
Why should voters select you over your opponent?
Well, I'll just focus on myself, but I have a demonstrated commitment to service. I worked in the nonprofit and government sectors my whole legal career, and worked in policy making as well as large-scale systems change at the community, state, national, and also international levels in my career. So in this community, for example, I worked for the past year to build a homeless prevention system with a collaboration of 10 different nonprofits who are working together to streamline access, assessment, and data sharing for folks who are being evicted right now. So I have a lot of experience with policymaking, and also building relationships. And that's one reason why I decided to run, because I think it's really important to get someone with a nonprofit perspective into the Capitol. We have to work with people from all walks of life in this sector, and we have to learn to collaborate and build relationships to survive. And so wanting to bring that in to the Capitol as well. And then in addition, I am definitely a true Democrat. I support reasonable regulations on gun control as well as gay marriage. Well, support allowing gay marriage, not regulations on gay marriage. And so that's another reason.
I'd like to thank Allie. She did mention me, and by AJ, that's what I go by. And I think that she's done a good job, and it's awesome that somebody who could go become an attorney and make money is helping out the community. So I think that she's awesome for that. But for me, between us is I've lived in my district a lot longer. I've lived there for over 10 years. I've advocated on behalf of my district, especially recently with the Suez, the brown water, and the F-35s. Unfortunately, that's come into conflict with the city council and the mayor, the previous mayor and this current mayor who were on the city council. She was the president at the time. So that's why obviously they've chosen not to endorse me, because they know that I'm an anti-establishment candidate. So I've done work in my bench. I ran, like when I ran for mayor, a lot of the stuff that I talked about last year was stuff that would positively affect the bench, because we've been so negatively affected by a lot of the city's irresponsible fiscal planning. So, I wanted people on the bench in District 17 to know that there was a candidate for them. The turnout from my district wasn't that high in the city race. It was most of the same people who had voted before in the past city elections for about the last 20 years. So, you know, this was a chance for me to come out and show people that I actually stand for people on the bench. And you know, um, I have a military background. I have a degree from Boise State, political science degree, with an emphasis on American government and public policy. And I've worked in politics and campaigns for quite some time. I've worked with policymakers in the state house. Fortunately, I haven't been drafting any bills, but I feel like the bill that Representative Palmer gave for the city council, the 100,000. I feel like those are my words, but obviously I can't claim them because I'm not a state representative. But I'm the one that advocated for that. And I have been advocating actually since 2015 when I ran against Scott Ludwig for city council districts, because this current city council doesn't represent my area. Not one of them lives in it, and so they don't have a say in it, and they don't campaign. Nobody came and knocked on my door during this election, except for myself, obviously. And you know, I'm somebody that will stand up for my people at District 17, because we're not part of the whole downtown scene, and you know, we don't, the CCDC, you know, some of these other organizations, we're not part of that, and we don't get the money or the benefits from that. So I feel like we've had taxation without representation, and so I'm somebody that will be able to go in who, you know, has been knocked out. I've knocked a lot of doors in the past, not just this election, but past elections in my district, and the people know me, and so that's why I'm getting, you know, votes from Republicans, unaffiliated, and Democrats. I have a very broad base, and so as this campaign speeds up and I have more money and yard signs now, people will tend to vote for me from, you know, broad base. I'm obviously a registered Democrat, but I am a pro-gun Democrat, and there are them out there. So, you know, that I don't think that's an issue. This is Idaho, you know, so there's going to be no gun legislation that's going to pass. It'll never happen because the Democrats, you know, they don't have enough power. But other than that, I support everything else on the Democratic platform, and especially I'm anti-corruption. So